Hey YouTube, welcome back to Love for Crypto. So this is the first video of 2019. It's been a nice Christmas. Enjoyed a lot of time with the family. I actually took like a couple of weeks off from doing production videos, spend a bit of time with the family over the festive season. But we're back now. We're progressing a lot with the studio. It's not too far from complete. But it's in my opinion, been a very revealing occurrence recently. That thought I'd dive, a bit further into it. But it's obviously to do with the Federal Reserve interest rates policy, and obviously it does have an indirect sort of effect for XRP to a degree, not directly. But I'll go into that a little bit further down into the video. But obviously, as you can see in front of you here, the Federal Reserve raised rates the 26th of September. This article is from by 25 basis points, and then again, obviously, in December when they raised them by another 0.25%. So a total of two rates, 50 basis points move, 0.5%. So basically what this is doing, this is the Federal Reserve, the monetary policy, for example, for the US bonds. So you have different yields of each bond, the 1 year, 2 year, 5, 10, 30. And basically when the Federal Reserve make these base rate adjustments, in theory the bonds should be going up as well with them. So, if you expect two interest rates, both at 0.25% each, totaling a 0.5 basis move, a 50 points basis move, 0.5%, then you'd expect the yields on the bonds to also follow suit. You would do it if you've got control of those interest rates as sort of a monetary policy structure. So what I'm going to show you here now, this is the 1 year yield note. So obviously these two articles, one being in September and the other one being in December, I'm going to actually highlight to you when these rates were increased, and just to actually show you the effect. So the 1 year bond, basically, just to explain what the bonds are, for example, it's basically an investment vehicle, probably accredited the highest rating possible, with it being government issue backed, AAA. And so therefore, if you're going to invest in for a 30-year period, if you're a billionaire, you want a long-term sort of generational investment, then you're going to yield a high return for the duration that you actually invested the money for. So vice versa, if it's only a 1 year yield, then obviously you would yield a lot less because it's a lot shorter time frame of investment. So basically, a bond is just an investment vehicle. Basically, you can add it to your portfolio, but it's government issued, so you could classify it as the highest rating of what you can be. So so what I'm going to talk you through here anyway, moving forwards. This is the 2 year bond for the United States dollar. Now, like I just said, we had September, which was the 9th, so it's around here. So around this point here, we had a Fed raise rates. So we can see the rates going up, as it should do. They've increased the rates. But then all of a sudden we have a drop-off going into November. But then when it comes to December, and it actually goes up back here, we've actually seen a massive sell-off down in the actual bond maturity, the yield return in interest. So it's quite fascinating. And basically in this environment, the Fed, are raising rates, bonds should follow. It's QT now, tightening, quantitative easing is over. But, this isn't just a 2 year yield. We look at the 3 year yield, exactly the same. And we've got the 5 year yield, exactly the same pattern. They're absolutely, they're falling off a cliff. And it's really, really concerning to a degree. And I don't think people quite grasp exactly the severity of actually what is happening. And again, I'm just keep circling through. This is the 7 year yield. And finally, this will be the 10. Sorry about this, the laptop performance is poor. But as you can see, they're plummeting. The faith of investment in these bonds is clearly not following suit to what the Federal Reserve are setting as their monetary policy. So if you have a look, this is a great way of explaining it to you. It couldn't be made much clearer. If you invest into a 1 year US bond now, you get a 2.57% return on that investment. If you used to invest into a 2-year bond, you're getting a less return. So you're not going to want to invest into a 2-year, are you, if you're going to get more off a year? When we go to the third, again, it's lower. It's 2.41. So you're not going to invest in the 3-year bond, are you? Of course not, because if you invest in the 1-year bond, then you're going to get a higher return. Again, it's countable for the 5-year bond. And then, you know, I can continue. I'm just trying to get you to understand this at its maximum. I mean, and they fell off a cliff there. And we're coming up to the 10-year yield now, and again it's 2.60. So it's 2.6% return on a 10-year yield bond, and it's now 2.57. We're basically 3 basis points away from the 1 year inverting the 10. Now, these aren't the two. I'm just using this as an example so you can understand it. So, you know, obviously now you're presented with a case where if you invest your money into this United States bond for a year, you'll get the same yield as what you would have done if you put it in for a 10-year. Now, obviously, you're going to want your money back with the same return, so you just take it back, don't you, straight away? It's crazy. It really is crazy. But a good way of putting it really is a good way of showing it, you. Of how it should look. You know, this is how it should look. This is the United Kingdom bonds. You know, the Bank of England issued reserves, probably bond notes backed by government. And on a 2-year, you're getting 0.69%. On a 5-year, you're getting 0.82. On a 10, you're getting a 1.2. And on the 30, you're getting a 1.75. So that's a normalised structure of how bonds should lie out. You know, the longer you put your money down, the more return you get for the investment. So as you can see, it's absolutely, it's crazy what is going on. It's called the yield curve inversion. So a good way of gauging this now properly is it's the spread between the 2 and the 10-year Treasury bond. I think currently, when it works out before, I mean, we can just check it out now, what the actual spread is today, live doing this video. So it's 2.43 on the 2 and 2.6. 2.58 is just dropped. So, you know, we've got a spread of around 15 basis points till the inversion, to the actual inversion itself. And as you can see on this chart here, you know, historical data, this is how the cycles have been performing. You know, so back in 1980s around here, obviously there was a lot of, I mean, to be honest, I'm not an economic historian. I do research a lot of stuff. You know, I don't really dive right back down into the crisis and why they occurred because it's irrelevant for me. Although, yeah, it's nice to know. But, you know, when you try to learn all this stuff with XRP as well, you have to sort of prioritise what information you do take. But, you know, there was a crash in 1989, and it was only 1 year later after the yield curve inverted that we actually became into the recession again. In 1999, 2000, you know, we had the crisis then. And we first went into 2006, 2007, 2008, you know, the crisis then. And you know, we are literally 15 basis points away from this inception. And basically, you know, going off this information here that I'm showing you today, that's gauging the possibility of recession being fully underway within the next year. Originally, I have been seeing in the videos, especially if you follow me and these sort of like podcast sort of style videos, I say Q4 2019, you know, we're going to start seeing stuff. But since doing that, obviously Federal Reserve have actually come out themselves and they've actually revised the amount of times that they're looking at introducing rate hikes down from 4 to 2. So obviously that's less tightening policy going on there. I think that was a little bit to ease the markets as he was bleeding, because as you know, like worldwide markets are really struggling. Dow Jones is down. I'm looking today, and Apple was down 9%. I know it's not necessarily directly involved with, you know, the economy the way you're speaking about here, but it's a risk-off season at the moment, and we are well and truly into the bear market now. And it's great knowing that we were talking about this back in April. You know, 2 months before all these top stocks was reaching all times high. You know, we got a lot of stick for it, but, you know, we're now here, and Apple's down 40% in the last 3 months. So it's just nice to know that the information we are putting out there is educational for everyone. And, you know, it's great having this love for crypto team. I'm only one person of it. You know, we've got Scott, we've got Chris, Demore. You know, we've got Simon as well in the Telegram group, myself, and then there's loads in like Jesse, like Sean. There's too many now at the moment, and you know, all this information that I'm actually distributing to yourselves today is not just all my, you know, I'm just here simply narrating it. But we've got a really nice tight-knit community, and I'd like to think it's probably the most sophisticated community there is, because, you know, there's no cultism or dictatorship or anything. It is a truly freely open group where anyone is invited to contribute to it, and it's from the discussions that we have firing across each other why we are actually able to produce these videos. So I think that's definitely worth noting there at that point as well. But yeah, as you were saying, look, what I'm basically trying to say to you, we're 15 basis points away from actually triggering the countdown, is a good way of putting it. You know, we're going to have 2 rounds of QT 2019. Are the Fed going to have to turn around at one point and do QE? If they do, I can guarantee you the entire faith and structure of the United States monetary policy system, everything, mate, it'll just completely implode. Interest rates were already rock bottom. You know, we're going to be going into negative interest rates, basically meaning you have to pay premium for owning the bond. It's an incredible time to be alive. It really is, ladies and gentlemen. And I know it's not been really that much relevant with XRP, but, you know, when we're talking about the economy hemorrhaging trillions of dollars, just remember that there's trillions of dollars tied up in capital around the world just to allow money to move. If we can just change that settlement process using XRP, we automatically unlock trillions of dollars that have been tied up that we can help aid. You know, we're not gonna stop the bleeding. This bleeding is down to QE for 10 years, 7 years of it, and you know, listen, we're gonna be coming up to a monetary reset itself. You know, from the early days of the United States dollar backed against gold. You know, I think you know, $34 was the equivalent of like 1 ounce of gold, and as more demand was required for United States dollars over time. You know, interest rates had to go up to keep this pegged against each other, basically, and it comes to a point where even at that system itself, the gold standard failed because interest rates would have had to have gone up so high. Yeah, and you know, and that's when the petrodollar got introduced, and since that point, you know, funnily enough, it's only been coming down. So it's like we're basically at the end of this monetary system, and a lot of people can't grasp that. But I think we're going to be moving on to a super sovereign, worldwide, one world currency to a degree. You know, fiat's going to be around, Great British Pound, the United States dollar, it's going absolutely nowhere. You know, this new system we are talking about is only going to complement the way that money is at the moment. You know, we can remove the Triffin's dilemma away from the United States dollar. You know, at the moment it's a pan that's on the boil, and we need to let pressure off somehow. And I do genuinely believe XRP being what it is, obviously it's an evolutional step for the banking sector within itself anyway. But you just need to remember that it is the asset that is able to unlock trillions of value around the world, when it will be much needed. You know, that alone is a round of QE just through a technological advancement. And I think the banks have seen this, and I think the central banks have been rubbing their hands with it. And it's not going to happen overnight, obviously, but when we start seeing this recession really hitting full force, and we do really see that, you know, the US dollar liquidity crisis, we're going to need to use other forms of liquidity, and by doing so, you know, XRP is really established into the greatest place that it can be. You know, especially when you have a look, you know, if you look at America's debt to GDP, you know, it's over 100%. You know, the debt that they've got, you know, when this US dollar system starts collapsing the way that it's structured at the moment, you know, America can't output enough to keep up with the debt. It's crazy. You look at total global debt, you know, 247 trillion equivalent, of course, in global debt. But remember, it's all the same central banks with all the same QE, you know, 0% interest rates. It's quite unbelievable. But I just wanted to make this video. You know, it's something different. And I genuinely believe this is the type of stuff people need to be watching. You know, it's great being in crypto, and that type of environment. But, you know, we need to realise what XRP's purpose actually is for. And it really is. It is to aid, you know, emerging markets more than anything in these scenarios, because they're the ones that suffer the most. And those are the specific corridors that Ripple are targeting. So it's just unbelievable time to be alive. You know, a lot of people are focused on the price, all this 589 and the year and stuff like that, but you know, you do need to look out. You need to step away from this as a long-term investment, and just appreciate what is being done, because it is history in the making, and it will be a monetary reset where we will have a universal peg for everything. Do you know what I mean? You know, America can't prosper continuing the path that they're on. You know, they're a debt issuing country. You know, deficits are completely, you know, at the lowest of the lows, and it will continue to keep doing so. It's a failed system now. The Triffin's dilemma is really in full effect. You know, I believe we'll have the monetary reset. I believe that native currencies, for example, United States dollar, England, China, the euro, I think they'll all be backed against physical gold. I think that could be the way that the gold standard will play out. But just look at it as sort of like an e-gold standard to a degree. You know, the native currencies are backed against gold. That's, if you can match that to your GDP of your economy, then that's the even playing field there, and that's why China and Europe have been allowed to buy as much as they have done to get that gold distribution out to the equivalent of the GDP, which is a fair way of doing so. But in order to have the settlement risk removed completely, you know, the digital asset XRP does allow that to happen, and if it can unlock all these trillions in nostril capital, and even if a fraction of that nostril was to return into the XRPL ledger for allowing the liquidity to be there, you know, 1/20th of the nostril capital, you know, it kickstarts that new economy there, that new liquidity provision, which is risk-free at the end of the day, and it's completely biased, so all countries and nations can all work together to really form that new world order organisation. And I don't mean to say that in a conspiracy way. You know, you've got to remember, this is what the central banks want, and all those central banks are owned by Rothschild establishment. And, you know, as soon as you say Rothschild out there, you are defined as a conspiracy nut. But the reality of it is, you know, all central banks in the world, bar 2 or 3 central banks currently, are under Rothschild ownership. And obviously these are the people who Ripple are working with very closely. These are the people that are involved in the monetary system and the structure. And we are hearing the calls for globalization and super sovereign national currencies. And I think moving into the digital age, I think this is the closest you will ever get to having such potential returns. You know, a lot of people can get excited about the price, including myself especially. You know, I can't just deny that fact. But it is unreal. You know, I'm trying not to hype as much now. I'm trying to be more factual based. But, you know, everything I've said in the past, the economic machine, you know, if what I'm talking about today, you know, eventually does come to fruition, and there is every reason to suggest that it is the case at this point, you know, 2030, fully tokenized economy, we're going to be talking in the thousands to provide the liquidity for you know, the universal peg, if you want to call it, for tokenization, for securities, you know, bonds, currencies, you name it. It's an exciting time to be alive. So I'm going to cut the video short at that one anyway. You know, we have got a video in production actually, we're just not hyping it out like I've done on my other ones, but I do think you'll really enjoy it. It's going to be a decent bit of an eye-opener one, and I'll catch you in the next video, guys.